I want you to just picture your morning commute today. You probably drove over a bridge. Maybe you went through a toll booth. You trusted that the traffic lights would, work. You grab a coffee made with water from the local treatment plant. We move through all this physical infrastructure. Like, it's just geology. Like, it's a mountain or something. It's just there.
It is. It's the background noise of civilization. We really only notice it when it breaks. But what we forget is that the concrete and steel, that's just the hardware, the software that's running it, the digital nervous system. It's under constant siege.
And that is exactly where we're going today. We are not talking about protecting your social media password. This is about the systems that keep the actual physical world moving. If these go down, we don't just lose money, we lose our ability to function.
The stakes are incredibly high. And to get into this, we're looking at a really candid, almost unfiltered conversation between two absolute heavyweights in this space. So on the defense side, we have Juan Cobo. He's the Global CISO, that's Chief Information Security Officer of a company called Ferrovial.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, Ferrovial isn't just a construction company fixing potholes. They manage Heathrow Airport. They run huge toll road networks in Texas and Canada. They build energy grids. They're basically the landlords of our entire civilization.
Right. And then sitting across from him, you have the shield builder, Pablo Vera. He's the director for Spain and Portugal at Zscaler, which is a massive global cloud security firm.
Yeah.
And they sat down to talk about what it actually takes to protect a giant like Ferrovial. And I have to say, the picture they paint is, well, it's a lot more precarious than I think people realize.
It really wasn't the standard "we have everything under control" corporate line. It felt more like a war room briefing. So let's start with the landscape. Juan Cobo used a specific word to describe Ferrovial that I think gets to the root of the problem. He called the company heterogeneous.
It sounds like a polite corporate buzzword, doesn't it? But in security terms, heterogeneous is. It's an absolute nightmare.
Why is that? I would have thought diversity is a good thing.
Well, in biology, maybe. In cybersecurity, standardization is safe. If every employee uses the same laptop, the same version of Windows, works in the same building, you can lock that down pretty tight. Ferrovial is the complete opposite. You've got construction sites in Poland using local software, airports in the UK with British aviation laws, toll roads in North America using these legacy sensors, different cultures, different tech, different rules.
So it's not one fortress with high walls. It's more like 1,000 different tents and bunkers and castles all scattered across the globe.
And they all have to talk to each other, precisely. And Cobo's point is that this complexity itself is a risk factor. It makes the company attractive to attackers. The more doors and windows you have, the easier it is for someone to find a loose one.
Okay, so that brings us to the who. Who's trying to get in? Because I think the image we all have is still the spy, the insider threat, the disgruntled employee downloading blueprints to a USB drive.
The Hollywood movie plot? Yeah. But when this came out, Juan Cobo, he actually kind of laughed at that. He says the reality of the insider threat is almost never malice. It's torpeza.
Torpeza. That's what? Clumsiness.
Clumsiness, cluelessness, just a lack of attention. It's not a spy. It's a well-meaning employee who's tired or distracted or just trying to get their job done fast. They click a phishing link because it looks like an invoice they were waiting for. Or they, leave a password on a sticky note.
So the biggest threat to global infrastructure isn't James Bond. It's Dave from accounting before he's had his coffee.
Essentially, yes. Cobo says the vast majority of internal risk is just human error. But, and this is a huge but, you still have to design your system as if Dave is James Bond, because you can't tell the difference between a clumsy click and a malicious one until it's way too late.
That's a really tough spot. I mean, you can hunt a spy, but how do you hunt clumsiness?
You don't. You devalue it. And this is where Pablo Vera from Zscaler brought in a concept that I found really, really insightful. He looks at security through the economics of bribery.
The economics of bribery.
Yeah, think about it like a criminal business plan. If I'm a bad actor, and let's be clear, this is a business, and I want to bribe an employee to get me access to Ferrovial's network, I have to calculate my return on investment.
Okay, I follow. So if I pay Dave $50,000 for his password, I need to know I can steal, $1 million worth of data with it.
Exactly. And Vera explains that the goal of a zero-trust architecture isn't just technical, it's economic. Zero trust basically means that by default, nobody has access to anything. You only get access to the one tiny slice of the network you need to do your job right now.
So Dave from accounting can only see the lunch menu and the invoices he's working on. He can't get anywhere near the engineering blueprints.
Right. And by doing that, you've completely destroyed his market value to a criminal. If paying someone off only gets you into a few spreadsheets, it's not a profitable investment. You're protecting the company by making your employees worthless to the bad guys.
That is a brilliant, if slightly cynical,
Mhm.
but a brilliant way to frame it. You're crash-proofing the human element.
Right.
But, okay, let's play devil's advocate. What if the bribe is big enough?
Then you need a watchdog that doesn't sleep. And this is where they pivoted to artificial intelligence. Zscaler is using AI to analyze behavioral patterns, not just passwords.
So it's not just checking, did he use the right password? It's checking, is he acting like himself?
It's all about establishing a baseline of normality. So let's say an employee usually logs in at 9 a.m. from Madrid, checks email, accesses one server. If suddenly, after a payout or a compromise, that same account logs in at 3 a.m. and tries to download terabytes of data from the engineering server, the AI flags it instantly.
It sees the shift in intent. It knows that human behavior has changed.
It knows the human is behaving unlike the human. It spots the anomaly before the real damage is done.
Speaking of behaving unlike humans, we have to talk about agentic AI, because this is the part of the conversation where Juan Cobo, he stopped being the polished executive and got very, very real.
He used a great phrase, liada parda.
Which means, what, a massive screw-up?
A really big mess, yeah.
Yep.
He admitted that Ferrovial has been experimenting with AI agents, and we should clarify, this is not just a chatbot like ChatGPT. An AI agent is software that can make decisions and take actions on its own.
Right, so instead of just writing an email for you, the agent can go into your calendar, find a time, book a meeting, book a flight, pay for the flight. It's doing things.
Exactly. And Kobo is saying that when you let these agents loose without really strict controls, well, they can make catastrophic decisions at light speed. If an agent decides the most efficient way to optimize server storage is to delete all the backups, it'll do it in a millisecond.
It's efficiency without any wisdom. It's like giving a Ferrari to a toddler.
And the road that Ferrari is driving on is full of potholes. Pablo Vera dropped a statistic here that honestly made me pause the audio to check if I heard him right. He cited a study that analyzed the APIs, the connectors that let these AI agents talk to other software.
The telephone lines of the internet.
Basically, they found that over 70% of those APIs were vulnerable or exposed.
70%. That seems impossibly high.
It's staggering, but think about how fast all this stuff is being built. So we are rushing toward a future where our businesses are run by AIs talking to other AIs. And they're doing it over lines that are tapped or insecure or just easily broken.
Vera called it a headless chicken scenario just waiting to happen.
That's the technical term, yes. You have all these systems running incredibly fast with no central brain checking if the connections are safe.
But, okay, it wasn't all doom and gloom on AI. They did mention a flip side where AI is actually saving them, specifically with data classification.
Yes, the needle in the haystack problem. A company like Ferrovial has millions, maybe billions of files. Some are just marketing brochures, some are top secret government contracts. In the past, you needed a person to open every single file and stamp confidential on it.
Which, let's be honest, never happens. People are too busy.
It never happens. So now they use LLMs, large language models, to read the documents at scale. The AI gets the context. It can scan a server from, say, 2015, find a forgotten PDF, and say, hey, this thing contains the blueprints for a critical bridge, and then automatically apply encryption.
It shines a light on all that dark data.
Exactly. You can't protect what you don't know you have. And AI is finally giving them a map of their own stuff.
I want to pivot here because we've been talking about data spreadsheets, emails, blueprints, but Ferrovial manages stuff, concrete stuff. And this is where they move to OT, operational technology.
This is where the stakes change from, losing money to losing lives.
Yeah.
OT is the actual machinery, the sensors on the toll road, the baggage belts at Heathrow, the valves in a water plant.
And they brought up a specific case study here that is, well, it's a horror story for any CEO. Jaguar Land Rover.
Oh, this is such a crucial cautionary tale. So, Jaguar Land Rover had a cyber incident. But the headline isn't just that they got hacked. Everyone gets hacked. The headline is that they had to stop production in early September, and they were down for a full month.
A month.
Yeah.
Can you imagine a global car company just stopping the assembly line for 30 days? The amount of cash they must have burned through is astronomical.
And Vera framed us as a future business school case study on how not to handle recovery. The implication was that they just weren't resilient. The lights went out, and they didn't know how to turn them back on because the digital keys were gone.
So if you're Juan Cobo and you're running an airport, you look at that and think, that absolutely cannot be me. You can't close Heathrow for a month. You can't even close it for a morning.
Not for a minute. So the discussion shifted to how do you protect that physical stuff so that never happens? And the solution Vera talked about was surprisingly physical. He talked about air-gapping devices using eSIMs.
Hey, break that down for me. Is that like the SIM card in my phone?
It's similar technology, but a different application. Usually, all those industrial sensors are connected to the main corporate network through Wi-Fi, cables, whatever. That's really dangerous because if a hacker gets into the email server, they might be able to jump over to the water pump control. It's called lateral movement.
So Vera wants to just cut the cord.
He suggests using 5G and satellite connections with specific eSIMs to totally isolate these critical devices. It creates a microsegment. So even if the main office is, digitally on fire, the sensor on the highway is talking to a satellite on a completely separate encrypted channel.
It's like the watertight compartments on a ship. If you get a hole in the hull in one section, the engine room doesn't flood.
That's the perfect analogy. It's all about limiting the blast radius of an attack. You sacrifice the limb to save the body.
And this brings us to why the attacks are happening. Because if we're talking about toll roads in Poland, which Ferrovial manages, we are not just talking about criminals looking for a payday.
No, not at all. We are talking about geopolitics. And this, for me, was the most sobering part of the whole discussion. Juan Cobo was very clear. When you operate in Poland, you are operating next door to a war zone in Ukraine. The whole threat landscape changes.
Pablo Vera drew a really sharp line here between the two types of enemies. You have cyber criminals, and then you have state actors.
And the distinction is all about motive. The cybercriminal is a capitalist. They want to lock your files, charge you 50 Bitcoin to get them back. They're annoying, but they're predictable. They literally have customer service desks to help you pay the ransom.
They want the business to stay afloat so they can get their money. It's a transaction.
But state actors, they don't want your money. They want chaos. Vera calls them hybrid threats. We're seeing drones flying over airports just to disrupt flights. We're seeing attacks on infrastructure designed to create panic or destabilize an entire region.
It's psychological warfare. If the trains stop running and the water stops working, people lose faith in their government. It destabilizes the whole society without firing a single missile.
And that activity spikes whenever geopolitical tension rises. Cobo has to watch the news like a general, because some diplomatic spat at the UN could lead to a denial of service attack on a highway in Texas.
This leads to a question that Vera asked that I think every single person listening should really think about. He called it the headless chicken problem.
It really is the ultimate leadership test, Vera asks. In a massive cyber crisis, when the screens go black, the phones aren't working, and the factory has stopped, who is actually in charge?
You would assume the CEO, right?
You'd assume. But in so many companies, the chain of command just collapses because it relies on the digital tools that just disappeared. If you can't email your reports, how do you give orders? Does the executive team even know how to make decisions without seeing data on a screen?
Or do they just run around like headless chickens?
The Jaguar Land Rover case suggests that for many, it's the latter. They didn't have a plan for the blast crater. They didn't know how to command the ship in the dark.
Okay, so we have a world where the infrastructure is incredibly complex, the bad guys are becoming militarized, and the AI we're using to defend ourselves is full of holes. What's the path forward? How do we survive this?
I think the consensus from both of them is a real shift in mindset. You have to stop trying to be invulnerable.
Because perfection is impossible. The shield will eventually break.
It will. You will get hit. Cobo says the goal now is to industrialize the recovery.
Industrialize the recovery. That's a very engineer way of putting it. What does that actually look like?
Well, right now, incident response is very artisanal. It's a bunch of smart people in a room, drinking coffee, typing like mad, trying to figure out what happened. It's slow. Cobo wants to turn that whole process into an assembly line.
Automation.
Total automation. If the system detects a breach, should automatically isolate that segment, scrub the bad code, restore everything from a clean backup, and bring the service back online. Maybe without a human ever touching a keyboard.
So instead of being down for a month, you're down for 4 minutes.
That is the resilience model. It's not about how hard you can get hit. It's about how fast you can get back up.
But to build that, you need people. You need talent. And we hear all the time that there's this massive shortage of cybersecurity pros. We just don't have enough people.
There is a massive shortage. But Vera had a controversial, but I think optimistic take on this. He thinks AI is the bridge for that talent gap.
Oh. Is he talking about replacing the humans?
No, not at all. He talked about empowering junior employees. Imagine you hire someone fresh out of university. They know the basics, but they don't have the battle scars of a 20-year veteran. But what if you give that new graduate an AI assistant that has been trained on every single attack in the last decade, and it understands your entire code base?
It's like an exoskeleton for their brain.
Exactly. Suddenly, that junior employee is as effective as a senior analyst. Vera claims you can get someone up to veteran speed in 6 months instead of 3 years.
That completely changes the hiring landscape. You don't have to go hunting for unicorns. You can build them.
It's the only way to scale the defense. The attackers are using AI to find holes faster, so the defenders have to use AI to patch them faster. It's an arms race.
It really feels like the role of the CISO Juan Cobo's job has just fundamentally changed. 10 years ago, the CISO was the Department of No.
Oh, yeah. No, you can't use Dropbox. No, you can't bring your iPad to work. No, that's too risky.
And now, he sounds more like a risk manager for the entire business.
Kobo says it explicitly. His job is culture transformation. He has to convince the construction worker on the highway and the executive in the boardroom that they are part of the defense. He's not just fixing computers, he's securing the entire business model.
And doing it while navigating active war zones.
It's a massive, massive job, probably one of the hardest in the corporate world right now.
I want to circle back to one thought as we wrap up. We talked about that 70% of APIs being insecure. We talked about the liata parda, the big mess. We are building a future that is, without a doubt, faster.
Speed is everything in the digital age.
But are we building a race car with no brakes? If we are automating everything from toll roads to airport security on a foundation that we know is full of holes, what happens when the next Jaguar Land Rover isn't a car company, but a national power grid?
That's the question that keeps people like Kobo up at night. If the AI agents are doing all the work and the agents get hacked, who catches them?
It sounds like that industrialization of control that Cobo talks about isn't just a nice-to-have idea. It's the only survival strategy left.
I think that's the real takeaway. We have to stop just blindly trusting the technology and start engineering the resilience. We have to build systems that expect to fail so they know how to recover when they do.
Well, on that slightly ominous but critically important note, we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
It has been a very sobering look under the hood of the modern world.
A huge thank you for the insights from Juan Cobo at Ferrovial and Pablo Vera at Zscaler. And thank you, of course, for listening.
Next time you're stuck in traffic or waiting for your bag at the airport, just remember, there's an invisible war happening in the wires to keep that belt moving.
Stay curious, stay skeptical, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.